Hey guys, welcome back to JB Breaks Free. I hope you're having a great day. Hope you're breaking free from whatever is holding you back in any facet of your life. Yesterday was a great episode. I finally paid off my mortgage, and I was so happy. It felt so good yesterday. It feels good today, especially out Instacarting, and it felt good last night at work, that's for sure. Just knowing that all this money or all this time that I've been putting in to earn all this extra cash, it does not have to go to the bank anymore, is tremendous. I got out there and grinded today, the day after the mortgage got paid, did 4 batches and made, I think, like $67. My goal is about $60 today to get to $200 for the week. Again, this is part-time for me, but that adds up tremendously, especially if you're going to have a decent night or a decent day at work. Text that Instacart on to what I'm going to make tonight in tips, and that turns to be a really good day. And you keep doing that over and over, and it turns to be a bunch of good days. So that is great. So I wanted to talk a little bit about today of kind of where I started with frugality and early retirement and debt-free journey. And one of the places that I started once I got digging in the rabbit hole a little bit from kind of a little bit of the Frugal Woods, their article about frugality is my hobby, which I'd like to talk about. A little Dave Ramsey action going on about being completely debt-free. Then I stumbled onto Mr. Money Mustache and also Jacob Lund Fisker from Early Retirement Extreme. And I loved his work, and it's very different than Dave Ramsey and also very different than Mr. Money Mustache. This guy, Jacob Lund Fisker, is extreme, and it's hardcore, and he puts out a plan where you can retire in 5 years or less if you adapt these extreme frugality methods, extreme savings methods. And it was quite eye-opening for me at first. I remember in my backyard kind of reading all over these things, and I was like, this is opening up a whole new way of thinking, a whole new world. And it was such a motivating factor for me. And I knew that even if I didn't go to these extremes, if I did my best, I'd still get to a much, much better place. And I think Mr. Money Mustache is kind of like half this, a little bit. Not quite as extreme as Jacob Lund Fisker, who will basically walk everywhere, cut out almost everything from his life, live in a tiny, tiny room or house. So I'm not that hardcore, but I did the best I could. And this is kind of how he lays out his 21-day makeover. And this is kind of me going through it a little bit, telling you guys a few of the main points from it, and then me kind of comparing myself, letting you guys know how I did in during that journey. So the first thing he talks about the first day is the house. Housing is one of the big three: housing, transportation, and food. And that was 3 things that we really had to consider at the time, once day one when we started this journey. Now, I bought this house 11 years ago, and I had no idea about early retirement extreme or anything like that at the time. Or financial independence or debt-free living. I wanted the biggest house I could afford, and I didn't care what it was. If I could scrape by paying that mortgage, that was fine with me, especially if in a nice neighborhood, blah, blah, blah. Soon after, and especially once I started paying the mortgage after about 5 years, I didn't want the mortgage. I would have taken a nice smaller house, or a ranch or something that... So just be careful. Don't overspend for a house if you're watching this before you get into that move. So that being said, and, so housing. Now, I couldn't tackle the housing right away because I had other debt to go after. So we did all that first. And then so when we get to housing, that's when I said, okay, no more debt, no more mortgage, no anything. This was still greatly influenced by Jacob Lund Fisker. So Jacob has a quote, and he says, "There's a deliberate choice to make between early retirement and the standard size house for your socioeconomic status. You can have one or the other, but not both. You have to live in something smaller if you're going to approach early retirement extreme. And certainly, yes, within 5 years. Now, if you're like me and you've already got this house, and you're kind of stuck, and you're living close to the schools, and it's in a nice neighborhood, and you have kids, and the wife doesn't want to move you out of the school district, and a pool came with the house that you had to fix up, and it's nice for the kids, especially during these times when you can't really go out and about. So you're here, and you got to figure out something else. So then Jacob's next point is, he says $200 to $300 per person per month is what you should be looking to be paying. So that would be, like a $600 mortgage payment for two people, if you're living with a partner, and I'm not counting the kids. So obviously we were not close to that. We had an $1,100 mortgage payment. Of course, we put a ton extra to it. So since I have paid off the mortgage with my wife, we now have about only taxes, right? You can't avoid taxes, house insurance, I think it's school taxes, property taxes, house insurance, and something else that adds up to $6,000 a year that we still have to pay. But that's leaving us with, an extra $800 a month or so that is just ours. So anyways, if I broke it down, so the $6,000 a month or a year divided by the 12 months is $500 a month. Divide that 500 by each adult, myself and my wife, and that's $250. We are smack dab in the middle of Jacob Lund Fister's early retirement extreme price per person per month. That's pretty cool. And it took, 3 years of us waking up and just hammering the mortgage and still saving and retirements, and, we lived our lives. And so that's pretty cool to have knocked out the mortgage. And just like that, we are in Jacob Lund Fister's per person per month payment for a place to live. So that's cool. And then the third thing Jacob talks about is two places you want to think about living by. You want to live by your work, and you want to live by groceries, because he's talking about in day 2 of eliminating your car completely, and I'll talk about that when we get to it. But he wants you to live by work and to live by your groceries so you can walk to each. And you know what? That'll probably get you to early retirement extreme in 5 years or less. However, that, of course, does not apply to us. I am only about 2 miles from my work, just give or take, and about a mile from the grocery store, give or take. I don't often walk to get groceries. In fact, I never have. I dream about kind of biking to work. I do have small fiber neuropathy in my feet now, and I have actually for the last couple of years, once I woke up to early retirement extreme. And I'm a little bit worried about going in all sweaty and this and that. I know there's ways to get around it. But needless to say, I don't do either of those things, even though I'm not against that idea. So he wants you to live within 3 miles if you're in a cold weather place, so you can walk or ride a bike, if it's very cold, or 7 miles away in a warmer place. I mean, that's a long walk or bike ride every day to work. So needless to say, I didn't do either one of those things. But, or public transportation he talks about, which costs money, which he says should be avoided, but it gives you more options. Anyways, somehow I managed to get out of this day 1, right where Jacob Lund Fister wants to be in price per person living in the house. Now, of course, cars are tomorrow, and I'll talk a little bit about that. I will tell you that I have no car debt. That being said, I hope you guys are having a great day. I hope you take some of this information to heart. Maybe you are lucky enough to live next to your work or next to your groceries, and you want to get out there and hustle a little bit more and chop down your debt, or take this to a more extreme level than I could take it. And, if I was single with no kids, it might be a different story. Definitely might be. But this is where I am now. But something to think about. Day 1, I'm going to check back in with you guys for day 2 tomorrow. So take care, break free. I wish you all the best.